Amongst the symbols of Rosh Hashanah with which we're most familiar is the symbol of the shofar, the ram's horn, which is traditionally blown on both days of Rosh Hashanah, as well as the month preceding Rosh Hashanah, the month of Elul, at the end of the services each morning, and at the very end of Yom Kippur, a loud, long blast known as the Tkiya Gdolah is sounded. Question is, why do we blow the shofar? In the Torah, we're told that this first day of Tishrei is the day of Truot, Yom Truah. It is a day of blowing either a ram's horn or a trumpet, but some kind of horn that makes a certain kind of noise. Without any details, we're simply told it's a Yom Truah, a day of blowing or sounding the horn. So how do we connect the actual ram's horn to Rosh Hashanah if it's not spelled out that way in the Torah? Well, the story of the binding of Isaac is read on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and as you may know, at the end of the story, instead of Avraham offering up Isaac, Yitzchak, as an offering, as a sacrifice, he simply passes a test and he's told that he can offer up the ram that's caught in the svach, in the thicket, whatever thicket is. And he takes the ram and offers it up, and that's all the Torah tells us about the ram and Avraham and the story of the binding of Isaac, Akedat Yitzchak. But the Midrash, the rabbinic commentary and elaboration on the biblical story that fills in some of the missing details or exciting details that many of us have learned over time but that don't appear in the Torah, the Midrash tells us that at the end of this test that Avraham passed, Avraham is not very happy with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, with God. And Avraham decides to take a stand and says, you know, I did everything you asked, and now I'm going to ask something of you. And God responds by saying, okay, what is it that you want of me? Avraham says, I want that on this day from now on, since I was ready to offer up my son, my only son, that all of our descendants will be forgiven by you in return for my willingness to carry out your command. A command that some of us may seem is very cruel and difficult to accept. And God thinks about it for a second, says, that's fine. I will be more than ready to forgive all of your descendants for their sins. And God says, that's fine as long as your descendants remember to show up. If on this day from now on they come together and they stand together and they blow the shofar, they blow the ram's horn and make the sounds, the tkiyot, the truot, the shvarim, if they make the sounds of the horn, then I will forgive them. And so when we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, remember b'zchut hane'akad, for the merit of he who was bound, and for the merits of his father, Avram, who negotiated with God, our chanina, our slicha, our being pardoned and forgiven by God. Each year in Rosh Hashanah, we're able to gather and know with pretty much certainty that God will accept our request to be forgiven and will forgive our sins. And that's why when we blow the shofar, it has such tremendous impact on who we are. It reminds us not only of the story of the Akedah, but that at that very moment, God is being stirred into forgiveness. Shana Tova, Chatima Tova. Everybody should have a good year of health and happiness and wonderful